Well, it's an interesting thing that you're saying about South Africa. To kind of tell you a little bit about my history, my grandma, my dad's mother, she's actually 100% Jewish. Both sides of her family, all the way back. I've done the genealogy on her, and she's got like seven rabbis going back. And so if we go
Wow.
back, we go back to Russia during the time of Stalin and Fiddler on the Roof. And everybody knows the persecution that the Jews faced during the time of Stalin and during the time of Russia. And
Wow.
so right before things got bad, I guess her family made a good decision to leave Russia. Because
Wow.
you look at the year they left Russia, and it was like a year, 2 years later that slaughters began to happen, and they were actually forced out of Russia. So I mean, her family was very, very prudent at leaving. And part of her family went to England, part of her family went to Germany. And then from England, they actually went down to South Africa. So it'd be interesting to see if you and I have some relation there somewhere, because I have a
Yeah.
lot of distant cousins that actually moved to South Africa. In fact, one of them is a guy that created the symphony orchestra for the country of South Africa. He's related to me, and I think the symphony orchestra down there in South Africa is still alive and well, and he's the one that actually started that.
Wow.
My grandmother's family then moved to the United States, and then from there they went down to Alabama, where they all are at now. And she told us stories of how she grew up, and she was her family was practicing Jewish. She kind of fell away from the Jewish faith in college, and then later converted to Christianity, which is where I come from. But she told us that during her youth, she would grow up and she'd practice every holiday, all that. During that, she'd practice Passover. She had actually show us how to do the Passover and stuff like that. But before she converted to Christianity, and her last name is out actually Reidelbach.
Oh,
And
wow.
then the part of the family that went to Germany, they did the same thing. They kind of saw the writing on the wall, and like literally before Hitler, or like right when Hitler joined the army, was actually part of the army before he even started making any type of waves. They left Germany as well, and also traveled down to South Africa. So we've got pretty extensive distant cousins that all went down to South Africa and kind of tried to escape that, but then you have the apartheid going on down in South Africa, so they didn't survive it very much longer. But
Wow.
so I have that Jewish blood in me. I mean, I'm a quarter Jew. My father's side, we're Scottish from the Kennedy side, going back to Scotland, and then my mother's side, we're English and Irish. So, but her side, she's 100% Jewish. So I understand the sentiment coming from there. Just growing up with her and her telling us the stories about how she would grow up. But I also understand why you're down in South Africa and why many of the Jewish faith went down to South Africa. But once England set up Israel and made Israel so you guys were your own country, the rest of the world should have gotten behind that, including the UN and everybody else. But they just don't seem to be giving Israel the same credence as every other nation out there. And now you have Hamas saying that and even Elon Omar and other of our politicians saying that you're occupiers and you're occupying their land, which I don't
Wow.
see how they could possibly say that you're occupying their land. Because I mean, as this podcast, I mean, we're God and country, and we're trying to bring God back into society and bring that discussion of God back into society. And so, coming from my Christian background, I know that the Jewish people were the holy people of God. I mean, that is what Christians believe. That's what the Jews believe, that you, as a Jewish people, you're the chosen people. And it's always been that way from the early stages of the Bible.